Imagine walking through an ancient fortress in Spain and suddenly finding a skeleton on the ground, face down, with no feet, and a Roman weapon stuck in its back. It sounds like a crime scene, right? But it really happened. This burial caught the attention of archaeologists because it was completely different from the Roman standard. There was no tomb, no sign of respect, just the body left there, as if someone wanted to erase that man from history. And that, for the Romans, said a lot. The way a person was buried revealed a lot about their life and reputation. Burying someone, face down without ceremony, was practically a cry. This person does not deserve to be remembered. And the presence of the weapon in the back only made it all even more symbolic. Who was this man, and what had he done to deserve such a humiliating end? This discovery opened up a real mystery. Hold on. Before I continue, I need your help. YouTube will only share this video with more people if it has a lot of interaction. In other words, without your comment, this knowledge could be buried and never reach those who need it. If this content makes sense to you, comment 1. If you disagree, comment 0 and tell me why. I want to see at least 100 comments here so that YouTube understands that this subject needs to be spread. So comment now and be part of this mission to reveal the secrets of ancient Rome. This skeleton was found in a place called Lobato, farmhouse in southern Spain. An interesting detail: this fortress is older than the Roman Empire itself. It has more than 5,000 years of history. Even so, it continued to be used by various peoples over time, including the Romans themselves. And it was there, very close to an old defensive ditch, that archaeologists found this body. It was that of an adult man, between 25 and 35 years old. Nothing special about it, until they analyzed the way he was buried. And then everything changed. Body face down, feet amputated, and a Roman dagger sheathed on his back. This was not an accident. It was a message. Someone wanted to make it clear that this man did not deserve respect or rest. It was as if the ground itself had been chosen to serve as eternal punishment, a kind of final judgment without words, just silence and bones. In ancient Rome, burial was almost as important as a person's life. The way someone was buried said a lot about who they were, what role they played in society, and how they would be remembered by others. A dignified burial was a sign of honor. An unusual burial like this man's was a sign of shame. Burying him face down was not a mistake. It was a gesture full of meaning. The Romans saw this as a way of turning the person against the gods, against the earth, and even against their own ancestors. It was the same as saying, this soul does not deserve peace. And when we add to this the absence of feet, everything begins to take on an even darker tone. We are not just talking about a body, but a symbol, an eternal punishment that did not end even with death. This type of treatment was reserved for the worst crimes: treason, desertion, or anything that deeply undermined military honor. Now think with me, why would anyone have the feet cut off before being buried? For the Romans, this wasn't just physical mutilation, it was a symbolic punishment. Cutting off someone's feet meant taking away their right to walk, to move forward, even in the afterlife. And do you know who usually suffered this kind of punishment? Traitors, deserters, or soldiers who failed in their duty. They lost not only the trust of their comrades, but also their humanity in the eyes of the empire. No feet, no honor, no way back. It was as if they were marked forever even after death. And when this kind of punishment was carried out by other soldiers, the intention was clear: to serve as an example to all who thought of making the same mistake. That man's body became a silent warning, a cruel reminder that in the Roman army, disloyalty was costly and was paid for with one's own body. And here comes the most disturbing detail: the Roman dagger on his back. But don't think it was used to kill. It was inside the sheath, fitted as if it had been placed there with care. And that changes everything. Because if it wasn't used as a weapon, then what's the point of leaving it there? The answer may lie in the symbol. The pujo, as this short dagger was called, was exclusive to Roman soldiers. It represented duty, strength, and loyalty to the empire. Now imagine dying with the symbol of honor stuck in your back, as if you had been betrayed by what you once defended. Some scholars believe that this gesture was intentional, as if to say, he was destroyed by his own oath. Others see it as a bitter reminder, carrying to the end the weight of what you swore to serve. In any case, the message is clear. This death was more than punishment. It was a ritual of oblivion. If this content is making sense to you so far, do the following. Give me a signal. Comment 1 below so I know you're with me on this journey. And remember, YouTube only spreads this knowledge if it has a lot of interaction. If you haven't commented yet, now is the time. I want to see this video full of opinions so that this topic continues to reach more people. Everything indicates that this man was indeed a Roman soldier. The dagger was used almost exclusively by the military, and in that region there was only one active legion at the time, the 7th Twin Legion, who patrolled northern Hispania. This does not prove for sure that he was part of this troop, but it makes the hypothesis very strong. And if he really was a legionary, the question that echoes is, what did he do that was so serious to deserve this end? Roman military life was based on strict discipline and absolute obedience. One mistake, one doubt, one act of cowardice could cost everything. And contrary to what people think, the enemies most feared by a Roman soldier were not the barbarians. They were their own comrades. Because when honor was broken within the legion, punishment came from within. Cruel, swift, and definitive. As if the army were saying, "We clean up our own mess." Among all the punishments a Roman soldier feared, there was one that stood out for its level of brutality: the fustuario. It was a type of internal execution carried out by fellow soldiers themselves. When a soldier broke the trust of the group, whether through cowardice, betrayal, or disobedience, he was handed over to the legion. The punishment? Being beaten to death with batons by those who marched alongside him. It was public, painful, and humiliating. But the worst came later. The body was usually discarded without rites, thrown away like trash, sometimes with symbols of dishonor, as we saw in the case of this skeleton. The punishment was not just death, it was oblivion. A cold, calculated end that made it clear. This is what happens to those who break the code. If this man went through something like that, his burial was not the end. It was the final message. And 2,000 years later, he still screams. Archaeologists didn't stop at the discovery of the skeleton. They are using modern technology to try to understand who this man was. They are analyzing the DNA, teeth, of food, possible illnesses, even his geographical origins, whether he was Roman by birth or a local ally who enlisted. All of this could reveal clues about his trajectory, and even the last days of his life. They are also studying the soil around, looking for marks that indicate whether there was a fight, whether he was killed right there, or just buried in that place dagger position. And the way the body was left are key pieces to putting together this puzzle. It's not just about understanding how he died, but because they chose to punish him that way. Every detail is being evaluated with the utmost care, because in this type of story, the body speaks, and sometimes it says much more than any written record. Even without all the answers, one thing is already clear. This man had a completely different end of the other Roman soldiers. While many warriors were remembered with pride, tributes, and funeral rituals, he was erased. No marked grave, no respect. He was thrown to the ground, face down, mutilated, with a military symbol carved into his back. All of this points to a punishment with intention of eternal shame, as if the empire were saying, "You no longer belong to our history." But the most ironic thing is that this attempt to forget failed. Because now, centuries later, this case is studied, commented on, debated. The man who should have been silenced has become an enigma. And this enigma rekindles a powerful question. How far was Rome willing to go to maintain its order? And how many others like him were silenced, without leaving a trace? This case reminds us of an uncomfortable truth. Behind Rome's glories, there were shadows. Not every soldier who swore loyalty received honor in return. Some were used, discarded, and forgotten or worse, buried as a warning. And this man, silent and mutilated, became the very thing they tried to prevent, a story that no one can ignore. He had no voice, but now he has our attention. We may never know his name, but we know that something very serious happened. And this forces us to look at the past more deeply. Because understanding the Rome that punished is as important as knowing the Rome that conquered. If you've stayed this far, it's because you feel there are more hidden truths waiting to be revealed. So leave your like and click on the video that's appearing on the screen. It shows another dark chapter in history that will surely mess with you. See you there.